Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Beyond Duality podcast. Today's subject is about stress and anxiety, and we believe this subject is one of the most important because it is so common. It is so common with everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm convinced that everyone felt stress once upon a time in their lives. It's common. You know, we've all had situations where we were anxious about it. We were having bad thoughts and we were nervous. But that's why we decided to do this podcast. By the end of the video, you will understand how you can actually use your stress as a tool to take you further, to take you closer to the end goal that you want to have, that you want to achieve. It's super important to change your perspective towards your stress. Let me take it back a few hundred years ago, for example. I think stress was super important for them or for us humans to survive. The best example I think I could give right now, you know, it was hard to find food back then. We didn't have all the supermarkets. You know, you had to hunt for your food. You had to feed your family. And when it's been days, even weeks maybe, that you haven't eaten, and you're getting on the edge of not having food, well, you need to find something. I'm pretty convinced they were stressed back then.
Yeah.
But that's the superpower that they had, or that we still have today. Your senses were higher, your vision, your hearing, your stamina, everything.
Yeah.
That is what I believe helped us, find food.
Definitely.
And I think it's only because the comfort level in today's society got so high.
Well, we kind of oppress our stress in the society, right?
Yeah, exactly. People say that it's a bad thing, but actually it's just the perspective that you have towards
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
Like, do you use it in a good way or do you use it in a bad way? Because the flight or fight response, it's a survival mechanism. It gets your blood to your internal organs, the most important ones. Your vision gets clearer, like I said before. Your hearing, your stamina, like you can run faster than you ever had.
Yeah, and that's because also when you're stressed or in a moment of anxiety, you're secreting a certain hormone, right? So
Yeah.
you're secreting cortisol and also adrenaline. So that's why you're feeling all of those aspects, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's only because now we don't really need to survive anymore. We have a pretty comfortable lives on a day-to-day basis. And that comes back to the level of comfort, that why would people go out of their comfort zone to grow and to actually seek the discomfort, like we said in other podcasts.
Definitely.
But what I thought about is the first time we felt stress is when we were younger. For example, I'm pretty sure everyone can relate to that, but in high school or in primary school, when we have to talk in front of the class, everyone was nervous. You could see it. Everyone was nervous. And this is where we learned how to feel about stress, to understand your stress, but you were still young. But I think we never actually learned to use that stress. Exactly. You never actually learn it. You still see stress like you saw it when you were younger, basically. Yeah,
That's something negative, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you don't see it in a good way. And I don't know why I used to do that when I was younger, but I saw that everyone was nervous, and I was as well. But one day, and I'm pretty sure I know the reason why. You try to impress other people when you're younger. You try to get respect from others. I think it's a common thing. When you're younger, you're trying to get the approval. And I was saying to everybody, oh, I'm not feeling stressed. It's pretty easy for me to talk in front of the class. And guess what? It actually got easier just because I reframed the way that I thought about it. So I think that's a super important thing, to be your biggest ally and not your biggest enemy.
Yeah.
Use it to your advantage.
Well, also stress, because it's so common, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of like a misconception in our society, right?
Yeah.
It's a way of seeing things. It's a perception thought, and I think a big problem in our society is that the most amount of stress that you will feel in your life comes from school, like you said earlier, right? But they don't teach you at school how to actually play with the stress to change it into something like a superpower on your own, right?
Yeah.
And what we want you to understand throughout that specific podcast is that, like Will said, stress is truly a superpower, and you need to utilize it as every time you're stressed, you're growing towards something that you're not used to at this specific time, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a way of thinking and changing the way you're seeing those specific things. So now, if you're in high school and you still have the mentality of the same stress that when you were in primary school, right? When you'll go in front of the class, tell yourself that it's just right. There are people just like you. Maybe some of them aren't as stressed as you are.
Yeah.
But because you're stressed at this specific moment, instead of seeing it as something negative, think about it as something positive and tell yourself, okay, if I'm stressed about speaking in front of somebody else, it could be in English, French, whatever the language that you're actually using. Well, you're actually growing out of the not comfort zone that you have as of this specific moment, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a way of seeing things differently, and you need to change that aspect in your life and be more conscious about it.
Absolutely, because you need to understand that, when you were speaking, I think that's one of the best example, because everyone did it and everyone was feeling stressed, but it's not helping you at that moment. You know, you need to really deeply think about it, and is the stress that I'm feeling today, like how I perceive it, is it helping me or is it being an anchor in my life?
Yeah.
Because a thing about success, that one of my perspective and our perspective is that you need to actually become the person before you reach your goal. Like the process that you are going through right now, all that stress, all the hardships, all the daily wins that you have to complete, well, those are stepping stones for your growth, like we said in other podcasts.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you cannot expect to be like, okay, when I will have $1 million in my bank account, when I will have a supercar, or when I will have the success that I want, then I will end all my stress. It's not that way that it works. Yeah, it's right now, because you need to realize once you go down that path, there's actually no coming back, and you actually now learn how to manage your stress. And when you're there, when you have the success that you wanted, well, you can't stop.
No.
There's no stopping. So the stress is going to be there either way. So how do you perceive it? That's my point, If you perceive it in a good way, then you're probably going to be more willing to continue that path. It's not going to happen by
It's not a miracle.
Yeah, it's not a miracle. You have to put in the work, and you have to reframe the way you perceive it. The stress is only there for you to step up.
Yeah. And another thing, actually, I have I have a quote for what you just said. To me, because you'll be in a moment where if you're actually seeking towards your goals and dreams, right?
Yeah.
And you followed up all the previous episode that we've talked about. So the dream doping one is about consciousness. After that, you have successful perspective. So it was about changing, perspective is a matter of perception. So you change your way of seeing things to see different perceptions. So because you're conscious of it, you can choose the right path. After that, because you can be conscious and choose the right path, you have dreams versus goals. That's our third episode. So once you have your dreams, you set up the goals, the stepping stone. You're conscious, see perception, choose the stepping stone to reach the goals, reach the dreams, right? And once you reach those 3 episodes, you reach what we're speaking about right now, is stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
Well, stress and anxiety is coming from a specific place that, because you're reaching different new stepping stones, you'll feel stress into your life, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we've put this specific subject as the fourth episode. And what I want you to understand is that if you're actually seeking to more growth and you're actually feeling the stress to a big quantity, etc., maybe you'll want to quit on the road or whatever on your own lane, etc. Right? But the thing is, and that's the quote, it's ambitions without actions create anxiety. And what I mean by this quote is that if you have, well, not if you have, once you have created a lot inside of your life, if you quit the actions part because you're too much, you're putting like a wrong perceptions into the stress, so you give up on those actions. Well, because you're not like putting the actions like you were in the past, you're just going to create and replace the amount of work that you need to put on a super big amount of anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a bad cycle, and that's always why we say once you start, you need to never stop, because you're gonna bring more and more and more work inside of your life and stress that a lot of people won't be able to navigate through it, and you should be able to navigate through it because you put yourself up to there.
Absolutely.
Right?
And one thing is, us humans, we often live with expectations.
Yeah.
We often live for the results. But what I realized, the way that I thought changed when I started my journey, and that's when I saw true results, is when I started to understand that right now, like I just said a bit before, I'm growing and I'm becoming the person that I need to become. And instead of focusing on the results of what I want to have, what I want to achieve, I'm now, and it comes back to the episode of dream versus goals, is I'm now focused on all the daily wins, all the small goals that I'm putting on myself, because I know for a fact that one day I'll get there. But when I stop focusing on that and I clear my mind, because right now I'm not there, but I'm getting there. And once I started focusing on that, and I focused on the present moment of what I can do today, what can I do today that could get me there, like that could get me there faster? What are the actions that have the most impact for my growth?
Yeah.
And my goal now is still there, but right now it's to get better myself, focusing on myself. And that's the change of perspective that I had that released all my stress. And one thing that I realized while I was walking, and the form of meditation, when you are in your thoughts and your mind can help you, is I realized that my goal was not clear enough. Because, my goal was there. And it's like, I want to be a businessman. I want to have businesses. I want to be the best trader possible. I want to make $1 million a month. That's my target, $1 million a month. Well, how do I get there? But when I started getting clearer goals, like I have a big goal for the month, and now I separated it weekly goals. I know what I have to do right now to get me there eventually.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on that instead of the bigger picture. And that's what released a bit of stress,
Yeah.
I'm still stressed because I'm like, okay, I need to do this. And I have a tight schedule and I need to work hard on myself. The stress is still going to be there.
Yeah, but it's clear in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's the fact that it's clearer. I can see the path ahead.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's often people put goals and they don't have a clear plan. But the clear plan is what is actually gonna get you results. You're gonna get there faster.
Yeah.
And it's super important for you, like in your business, you must have a game plan or something.
Definitely, yeah.
Because I saw on our group, I saw that you posted things, you got your cards, you got your first client this weekend, and it's great. But you had to put those actions when you were building your company, your website, you were talking about it. And you were saying, I need to do this. You had a clear goal ahead, and with your journal. That's why I have my journal right here.
Yeah.
It's super important to have a journal and to write down your thoughts.
Well, we've talked about it because every day on the Discord channel, right, we write down quotes and mindset and small wins for the day, etc. Well, I think what Will just bring is super important. I especially, and even you now, every day we wrote down our goals for the day, daily, the weekly, the monthly, and the yearly, and it's just an easy way to help you achieve and create the right path with your perception and consciousness towards what you actually want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you because I am stressed about certain things that I haven't achieved in my life yet, but because I know how to get there in certain type of way because I wrote them down, it takes a lot out of your shoulders or off of your shoulders, and it's kind of like what we like to say about the glasses, right?
Yeah.
It helps you with perceptions. That's one of the reasons why we are actually wearing glasses, right?
We love them.
Yeah, definitely. We have a blue tint. Will has also one in his new glasses, and for us, it's just a easy way to be conscious every time we put on our glasses in our face, right?
Yeah.
We're conscious about what we're actually speaking about, what we're truly seeing with our eyes, and it's just kind of like a how can I say this?
It gets a clearer vision, or
it filters.
It filters what comes into your mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to fill your mind with positive thoughts.
Exactly.
And a big fact of the matter is, anxiety comes from your thoughts that you yourself created. So that's why I come back to the beginning when I said you need to be your biggest ally.
Yeah.
Well, why do you need to be your biggest ally? Well, first, it's going to help you take your life a lot further. If you tell yourself, positive things, I'm pretty sure just try that. Instead of being negative, seeing every situation that comes into your life in a glasses that is negative, well, that's not going to help you. Just try that. Try to change your thoughts in positive thoughts and try to see the good in everything.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced, even though you might be not convinced now, and like, oh, it's shit, my situation is shit, or whatever, you're not really happy with what you have right now. Well, just try to change it and see the opportunities that you have towards your life. And that's another thing. When I started thinking positively, I saw opportunities everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's also because you've created at this point actions, and it's those actions that actually lead you towards luck.
Yeah.
Luck is not. That's also another misconception of life. Well, to me, not also, but to me. I mean, luck isn't something that is just going to come by in your life. If you go and buy a Lotto 649, right?
Yeah.
And you win $1 million. Well, the million didn't just fall on your path for fun. It's because you went to your local store and you bought a ticket to win that specific million.
Yeah.
But if you didn't took the actions for it, well, you wouldn't have been lucky.
Like,
the opportunity comes to you because you actually took the action. That's my point.
Exactly. I can agree with that. My point is, and it's true, if you don't take actions, well, you're never going to be lucky.
Yeah.
You're never going to have the chance to be lucky because when you take actions, well, maybe it's going to be one of your best days.
Yeah.
And then it just follows up and it adds on. And another thing is you need to stop taking actions to please others. That's a big factor because you need to be your biggest fan in a way. Like you need to stop trying to please others and to self-love yourself. All you do about your journey, you need to enjoy it. And another factor is, like you just said, people that win the lottery. Well, often they get that money, but they lose it all. And why is that? Well, it's because they didn't work on becoming the person that can handle all that money. That's a big misconception that people often say that they could manage millions of dollars, while they can't even manage their finances right now. So what makes you think you can manage an empire? You need to become that person. You need to work towards that.
Yeah, it's personal growth.
Yeah, exactly. Personal growth is super important. And that's why too, another fact of the human psychology is you need to stop trying to please others with your actions. You need to please yourself, because you need to have, when you stop according your self-value to the opinions of others on yourself, then that's when you're going to be self-fulfilled with yourself, because the actions that you take on a day-to-day life is going to get you towards your goal, but you're going to have the self-confidence, and some of that stress and anxiety is going to go away, because the opinions of others, everyone can have opinions on you. And if you let that affect you, then it's normal you're going to be stressed and anxious, you know?
Yeah, well, it's unnecessary stress and anxiety that comes from a circle that shouldn't be around you also.
Exactly.
We've talked about this in many of other podcasts, actually. Your circle isn't supposed to be there to dig a hole for yourself.
No.
It's supposed to be that person that, if you're anxious or stressed about what you're actually growing towards, to this person, like Will, to me, is not an anchor. Is something that will help me kind of like the spiral that we
upward
talked
spiral.
about. Yeah, exactly. If I need something, I know will be there to me and will help me to actually clear my mind to push towards growth. And that's people like this that you need inside of your life, right?
Yeah.
And often I think people just let energy vampires too often inside of their life, and they are not like they don't take actions towards having the right people in their circle.
Exactly. And when you start this journey and you start getting better as a human beings, I think life does it naturally for you. Those people are eventually going to go away, because you're not going to have the same, when you're not going to be like them anymore. You're not going to have the same interest, and you're going to find good people around you to help you propel you forward.
Well, there's going to be judgment from
Absolutely,
others.
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's just normal human nature. Often people judge because they don't want to take their actions themselves.
Well, it's alibi, right?
Yeah, it's an alibi. I just want to, because with the alibis, I saw that in a book that I read, and I was like, this is one of the best quote I've ever heard in my whole entire life, and it can apply to everyone.
Yeah.
If only I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it. Then I might have a chance to profit from my mistakes and learn something from the experience of others. I know there is something wrong with me, or I would know, or I would now be where I would have been if I had spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. And it's the principle of, you need to take full accountability for everything that happens in your life.
Yeah.
Everything, all the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, they have an opposite. So all the small wins, like all the good actions that you can take, well, they're gonna have the opposite. They're gonna be positive. If you go for the cheap dopamine, for example, if you go to the club, or you smoke or whatever, well, that's going to take you into the downward spiral. It's not good for you. But if you take the delayed gratification and those actions that are hard right now, but you know are going to get positive in your life, and you'll eventually gonna get better from them, well, that's what you need to focus on. What do you put your focus on? Do you focus on the negative, or you focus on the positive?
Yeah, and it's also why earlier I've talked about perceptions for the luck.
Yeah.
Because likewise, bad luck is also like equals to failure, right? In a certain type of way. But if you're seeing stress as something of growth, then failure, you can see it as something of growth also. So every time that you're actually taking actions, and those actions lead you with the path that you choose to bad luck.
Yep.
Well, this bad luck is equal to failure, but failure is equal to growth. It's the same responses as stress and anxiety. If you can see it as something where you can win, because if you're actually failing at something because you took actions for them, then you can learn from
Yep.
the failure to grow to another state of mind where you will actually not fall for the same mistake the next time that you're actually going to take those specific actions again and choose the right path. And if you see the mistake that you failed the other time, you will learn from it and just go around it and choose the other path that is supposed to be that was supposed to be taken the last time, right?
Exactly, and that's where growth comes basically,
Yeah.
because you need to change your perspective. Basically,
Well, stress is
It's-
perception.
it's perception. Exactly, like stress can actually destroy you completely.
Yeah, because we all have that little demon, right?
Yeah, we all. That's what I said in the beginning. It's so common, so that's why we decided to speak about it. Everyone feels stressed, but it's only the strength that you give to it, the power. Like, how do you perceive it again? It's always a question of perception. What do you focus on in your day-to-day life? You know. To summarize it up a bit, we're just gonna give you examples on what you can do to better manage your stress. You need, personally, us, what we do, we found some type of meditations. Personally, I know you are just sitting in your room and getting with your thoughts, and me personally, it's a daily walk that my mentors recommended to me. And that's one of the best things that you can do, to be with your thoughts, because your thoughts are going to help you get a clearer vision on what you need to accomplish and where you need to go. Because like we said before, the fact is that you don't really have a clear path ahead, and you just have that big goal in mind.
Yeah.
And you don't know where to go and what to do. So
I think also because you have something so big, well, if in your case it's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Because to you it seems so big at the specific moment because you didn't set specific stones. That's also a comeback to the definition, well, the quote that I told earlier.
Yeah.
Like the ambitions without actions create anxiety. Because what I mean is, at the moment that you find your dreams, right? When you find the dream, you're super motivated about the things that you want to have in your life.
Yeah.
So this becomes like a big amount of ambition. But because you're not taking ambitions, you feel sad or some type of way about it. And because of that, you're stressed that you're not taking actions towards the moment of growth because you just don't know where to go to grow.
Exactly. You need to know what to focus on, because that's what I realized on my walk. Exactly. Like, I had my big goal, my big dreams, and I was so stressed at night because I was like, man, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like, I was working, I was doing my stuff, but I didn't have that one thing that I know is going to take me there. But when I started thinking about, okay, that's my goal, I'm going to separate it into smaller goals. And just by doing that, it got so much clearer in my mind. And my thoughts were now focused on achieving that thing. And I know that when I do that thing, then I'm growing, I'm getting better, and I'm getting closer to my goal. And that's what you need to do. You need to start. I think the biggest thing that you can change in your life right now is to take a moment to just think. Just be with your thoughts. Know what your goal is. First, start with your goal. That's super important, like we said in the dream versus goals.
Yeah, well, the sequence of our podcast is super important. There's a reason why we've talked about in this specific sequence, right? And if you didn't watch yet the first, second, third, and now the fourth, you should go back and actually listen to those ones because and I'm not saying this for bragging or whatever. It's not for views, etc.
It just made sense.
Exactly. It's just the sequence is made so that you can understand it, the way of changing your life in just more understandable way. And we just wanted to create a breakdown version through the podcast, basically.
Yeah.
So that it's easier to just listen to, and actually after the episode, I highly encourage you to actually write down what you liked about the podcast in your book.
And comment as well what you liked and what you want to
Or
us.
even what we could have missed also.
Yeah, exactly.
Because for us it's also a
way to grow.
A way to grow, exactly. It's a channel for learning for you guys and also for us.
Yeah.
And
because the fact that we have to speak about our thoughts, because that's all things that we were thinking about and we were talking about it, but now the fact that we have to not teach them but teach them to you in a way, like we have to speak about them in a clear, concise way, well, that helps us as well to grow and to get further.
Yeah,
because
you can speak in English, right?
Yeah, I think we got a bit better.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than the first episodes.
We're not as stressed, even when we are starting a podcast now, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best example we could have.
Well, yeah,
we felt
4 episodes.
Yeah, we felt so stressed in the beginning. We were cutting everything. We were restarting. Then the second episode, it was a bit better. The third one was fantastic, and the fourth one is even better. So we can see that the more you do things that make you nervous or stressed and anxious, because I couldn't sleep. Before the podcast, I couldn't sleep. I was so anxious. I was like, okay, what am I going to say? How am I going to do it? Am I going to do good? Am I going to speak well enough? But now, the more I do it, the less stressed I become.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can implement in your daily habits. Because the more you do them, the more you're going to be like, oh, it's pretty easy.
It's becoming a zone of comfort for us.
Exactly, like discomfort creates new comfort.
Exactly. Yeah.
At the beginning, when you start, for example, me in my trading, I need to understand what's going on in the markets, in the in the United States, the policies and everything. At first, it was super hard,
it's a lot.
but the more I do it, the more I push my thinking. Well, the clearer it becomes, and the more I can see how it reflects in my price action, for example. So it's the same thing. And the daily, like you start first with your dream, then you get some goals that you know are going to get there. So how you do that by thinking. So that's why I said one of the most important thing you can do is to start thinking. It's not the fact that you're not thinking on a day-to-day basis, is that your thoughts are always allocated into your daily routine. Often we go on autopilot mode when we don't really have to think about anything. We can just go through life and do our thing,
Yeah, it's glide through life, like we talked about.
Exactly. But the fact is, when you take a moment to think and to be with your thoughts and to be with yourself, well, maybe you're going to start finding solutions to problems that you didn't know really how to manage through them. And you're going to have more confidence as well, because you know that those actions are actually helping you. It helped tremendously for me personally.
And you also can back that up.
Yeah, and when you do them, you feel so proud. Just by feeling proud about yourself, it's going to reframe the whole way you think. And it's going to help you into that upward spiral. You're going to want to achieve more, and then you're just going to get into that momentum zone that we talked about.
Yeah, and the momentum is just going to help you towards wanting to go to more zone of stress also.
Yeah.
Because you know you can crush them and actually think for yourself out of a routine kind of day. And because you're able to think through specific problem, you can find solution with yourself, and that's the beautiful part of stress and discomfort, to create that new comfort zone, right?
Exactly. And I think that's a good point that I think I can talk about. Is I watched a podcast about John Mark Stevenson, and he's a pretty young entrepreneur. He's making about $150,000 a month and he's 20 years old. It's super impressive. And he was talking about that. He said, I'm still feeling stressed, on his day-to-day basis. It's just that my stress is different than the stress I was feeling before. But he still doesn't have the motivation every day to do his things. But like we said before, when you have success, you just can't stop. So he became the person that can manage that type of stress, but he's still feeling stress. It's just different stress. So that's why those daily actions are super important. And I think it's a good idea. I think we can do a video about that podcast. Next video, I think we can react to this one so viewers can get a great understanding about his mentality, because I followed him since the beginning and I saw the progression. That's what is crazy to me. He started a year ago his YouTube videos. He started filming them in his Corolla, then in his Ram TRX, and then in his Lamborghini, and now he just bought a Ferrari. You can see the progression and you can see how he was actually thinking the same way before he actually had that success. So it's not the material things are going to come after. But we always say that it's the person that you're becoming right now that is going to be able to handle all that stress, all those situations. There's still problems. It's not like life becomes all rainbows. You will have even maybe bigger problems. I'm pretty convinced that, for example, like a lot of successful peoples, they have so many stressful situations on a day-to-day basis, but they just know how to handle them. It's, I couldn't live in the life of a billionaire. I'm not that person yet. Eventually, maybe I'll get the stress tolerance, but their lives must be crazy. And all the efforts, the daily habits, like, they must work like crazy. For example, Elon Musk. I saw a podcast of him talking about his daily schedule. He works I think 22 hours a day at some point on Tesla. You're telling me you could do that? It takes so much effort. And even him said, don't do what I'm doing. It's crazy. So that's why all that stress will eventually become something good. You need to just use it as a superpower, basically.
Yeah, well, superpower is the thing that we've talked about a lot in other podcasts also, because it's kind of like what you said, I think, in the last one for overthinking, right?
Yeah.
You're an overthinker, I am as well, and to us, well, in the society, also another misconception, like we've told in the other podcasts, overthinkers and someone that can concentrate on specific stuff at school, let's say, if it is just an easy example, we often get medications
to stop your brain from overthinking, just be more focused.
Focus at school, yeah. But in reality, overthinking is just a way of, if you don't see it as something negative, I personally, what I do is when I do the 30 minutes on my chair at home without phone, without anything to think about specific things for business or podcast with Will, company, etc. Well, I overthink about things that I really need to put work on. And it's in those specific moments that I use my overthinking as a superpower to go down the rabbit hole on specific subject. So I can find things that a lot of people cannot find because I'm an overthinker. So I utilize it as a dream, not a dream, as a superpower. And I think the misconceptions is the reality of a lot of shit that we have inside of our life. And we just need to see them as something different, create a paradox about it, kind of the word fragility, right? Yeah. That I'm going to talk about in another podcast with you.
We're going to do one about it.
And yeah, we just need to change the perceptions to see the true reality, like what I've talked about through the lenses, right? And once you will be able to do that and change the way you see the stress as something negative, see it as something positive and the moment of growth, etc. Well, you'll be on the right path, man. And it's just gonna take a little bit of time to get used to it at some point, to think about it at, like, in this specific way. And
Absolutely. It's like a good principle as well is the law of detachment.
yeah,
Like if you detach yourself from all your expectations, and things might not go how you see them, they're just gonna get there eventually. But if you detach from the outcome and you focus on the present moment,
yeah, well, it's stoicism, right?
yeah, exactly. That's how I think you need to change your perspective. It's all your thoughts and your perspective through the lens. What do you see through the lens?
Yeah.
Do you see the positive or negative, basically? So I think that's summarize it up how we can see how you can actually change the perspective with stress and to use it instead of seeing it as something negative in your life. You know, it's something good.
Definitely.
So just now, just take a moment, just subscribe, leave a comment because we want to grow, we want to get better. If we forgot anything, just feel free. And if you're still watching, well, thank you so much. We appreciate it a lot. Yeah. So we'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah.